Curiosity got the best of me, and I finally broke down and purchased one of the new Fender Standard Telecaster guitars. I've been using an artificial intelligence tool, AI, to watch market sentiment on guitars that I cover on the channel. I use AI to scan forums, reviews, and websites to provide me a report about what people are saying about the new Fender Standard guitars. It's pretty cool because it scans hundreds of websites in minutes and then compiles a report. If I tried to do this manually, it would take me hours, if not days, to do this. When Fender first released the guitars, the initial feedback from folks, and I have to admit, including me, was negative. People were resistant to purchasing the guitar for many different reasons. Here's a summary report that shows what the current feelings are out there on the internet about the new Fender Standard line of guitars. Many buyers appreciate that the Indonesian-made Fenders offer a more accessible price point with the Fender logo. This is a key factor in the positive reviews seen in shopping sites where the value for the price is highlighted consistently amongst the reviews. Some players have reported minor issues with fretwork, nut quality, and hardware, but this has not been the overall norm. There are a few highlighted opinions that some of the components used in the construction of the guitars are of lower quality than used on higher-end Fender models. But for the price point, people feel that this is expected. However, most buyers are reporting that the overall build quality to be quite good, especially for the price point. The modern C neck shape is generally well received for its comfort and playability. The general opinion about the neck is relatively high. There are some opinions that the pickups are low output, and some people have stated that they're not happy with the tone that comes out of them. Comparisons are naturally being made between this new model of guitar and the Mexican-made Fenders and Squier models. There's still ongoing debate about where these Indonesian-made models fit within the Fender lineup. Some people feel that these new guitars will replace the Squier Classic Vibe model. This, though, is conjecture, and we are unable to find any support from Fender to support this. Pretty interesting stuff. I am really starting to get to use tools like this in the channel, and it helps me actually a lot doing like fact checks. And sometimes I want to see what people are talking about and saying about guitars to see if I'm off base when I have an opinion about something. I want to see if other people have discovered the same things like maybe I have. I'm a fan of guitars that have good bones. It's a term or phrase that I have kind of coined on the channel. It basically, a guitar with good bones is a guitar where the neck, the fretboard, the frets, and the body are at a pretty good quality level, enough to make it worth the time and money to invest in upgrades. To me, this is pretty much the definition of good bones. The wiring harness, nut, tuner's bridge, saddle, and the pickups, they're bolt-on stuff, and they can all be upgraded. This is the reason that I purchased the Standard Telecaster, is that I really wanted to see where does the guitar fit? Is, it a good enough guitar to be upgraded? Does it have good bones? Before we dig in on my observations while performing the upgrades, I want to make something clear. I didn't buy the guitar to play samples in the video of the factory electronics and pickups and to do kind of like an on-the-bench type of review. There's so many other channels that have already done that. So I'm not going to. That just would be literally recreating content that's out there. And to be honest with you, content that's out there that's been done that's actually really good. My intent of this video is that I wanted to see the quality of the overall components, and then I wanted to see what can I upgrade and what parts work for those upgrades. My observations. The neck, in my opinion, is the center of this guitar. It is a very nice neck to play. I have to say that I am generally impressed with the neck and just the overall feel of it. I really, really like the satin back of the neck. If a classic Vibe Telecaster had a neck like this, I'd be a happy man. Don't get me wrong, I like the necks on most of the classic Vibe guitars, just not as much as this. The nut on my guitar is okay. It is a plastic nut and delivers what you would expect from a properly cut piece of plastic. The edges of the fretboard are smooth and not sharp. I found fret rocking on the 5th and 17th frets, both on the treble side of the fretboard, and both easily fixed. The tuners look like the Fender Modern sealed tuners, but they are not. I can tell the difference. These are inexpensive copies. The cool thing is they're standard 2-pin 10mm tuners, so basically pretty much all modern Fender type tuners and aftermarket tuners should be able to fit fine. The body and neck fit together tightly. The body's finish is good, and I'm very glad I purchased the blue finish, and I really appreciate the little metallic flakes. It's a really nice finish on the guitar. Initially, in the video, when I'm removing the strings, 2 of the string ferrules fell out. When I was attempting to reinstall them, the remaining 4 fell out. Off camera, I super glued them back in. The sides of the ferrules are smooth, and the ferrule holes are just a hair too large for there to be a tight fit when you press the ferrules in. So here are the things that I decided to upgrade on this guitar. I bought a set of the Fender Pure Vintage 64 Telecaster pickups for $134. Also, for all of these items, there will be links in the video description and at the top of the comments. I did not upgrade the tuners, but I recommend that you do. The following are what is coming out with the Fender Player 2 guitar tuners. They're the Fender Classic tuning machine heads for about $47 a piece. And I put a link in. I wanted to upgrade this guitar so where it had a 3-saddle bridge plate with brass compensated saddles. And so I went with a Wilkinson compensated 3-saddle guitar Telecaster bridge assembly for $25. I installed a Mojotone Wireless convertible Tele 3-way guitar wiring harness with 250K pots for $119. The overall theme for the upgrades was that the person with this guitar was probably doing upgrades for the first time and may not necessarily have the soldering tools and skills. That was why I got the Mojotone Wireless convertible Tele 3-way guitar wiring harness. I ended up having to also install the following parts because when I wanted to reuse the knobs and everything that came with the original guitar, although they were on solid shaft pots, they were a smaller size, and the pots that I installed on the Mojotone are standard 1/4-inch CTS pots. They wouldn't fit, so I ended up having to get a set of the barrel knobs for a Telecaster for $12, also a new control plate for $13. After I removed the factory bridge plate, I found the 4-hole vintage style 3-saddle plate fit great. I'm not a fan of the 6 saddles on a Tele. I mean, I'll play one, and I have Teles that have the Fender 6-saddle bridges that I cannot replace them with a vintage style bridge. And I love those guitars. It's just that if I have a choice, I will convert it to a 3-saddle. I'd like it to look like and function like a normal Telecaster. Beneath the pickguard, the routings will allow you to install a humbucker pickup in the neck, and I think even a P90. There is a middle pickup routing, so you could buy a pickguard for a Nashville Tele and install a single coil in the middle position. You'd also have to buy or build out an appropriate wiring harness to support that. The factory pickguard is a traditional 8-hole Telecaster pickguard, and you should be able to swap out for any Telecaster 8-hole pickguards. There is a black paint inside the routed cavities. It is conductive. I watched another content creator, and he was checking for continuity when he tore the guitar down and showed that he didn't believe that it was conductive. It actually is. And the reason is it doesn't have a value of 0 when you measure it. It actually has a value that sometimes is up to like 300 ohms. So the paint that they use does have a resistance that measures low, but it does have continuity. So the black paint is not for show or fake. It is actually real. While very low to no resistance is ideal, even conductive paint with some resistance can still provide effective shielding. I just don't think quite as much as something that has 0 ohm continuity measurement. I chose the pickups because I really like the tone of 60s Telecaster pickups. They have a little more warmth than a traditional 1950s style pickup does. The solderless wiring harness from Mojotone is really well made and comes with a very good colorful set of instructions for installing. After trimming my wires down and inserting them into the terminal block, I locked the wires down. I really like the terminal blocks on solderless wiring harnesses where it actually has the screw terminal block versus the little clip things. I find that the springs on the clips don't last, and after a while won't hold the wires in place. So the harness is really easy to install. It works really well. After assembling everything, I tested the wiring and pickups by plugging into an amp and performing a tap test on each of the pickups. There are 2 switches on the wiring harness. The harness comes with a treble bleed circuit on the volume pot. One of the switches allows you to turn this on or off. The other switch turns the tone pot on or off. I left the bleed circuit on, and I also left the tone pot on. I want to have a functioning tone pot. Here are my final thoughts on this guitar and the upgrades. I was able to purchase my guitar brand new for $509, not the $599 that they're out there for. I did this by going on a Reverb, and I looked at about a dozen of different listings from sellers with new versions of the guitar in blue, and I clicked on the watch, the little heart symbol. Within about 30 minutes, I had dealers sending me deals. That's how I got the $509 deal with free shipping. My point is, you can easily get the guitar for considerably less than the $599 price. Another content creator said that there was just something about playing a Fender versus a Squier as he compared the standard models to a Squier guitar. I agree with him and think the difference between a classic vibe and the standard is, it's all in the neck. The neck is great. And it is a Fender neck and not Squier. And you can noticeably tell this, but I've torn this thing apart and really looked at it, the electronics and things like that. Although the 3-way switch looks like a high-end switch, it's not. It's noticeably different when you're cycling through the 3 positions and so on. So in the comments, here's what people are going to tell me in the comments. And to be honest with you, I have to kind of agree with them. And I realize this is kind of preemptive, but I've been doing this long enough that I know what people are going to say. For what I put into this guitar, I could have just bought a Fender Player 2 for $799. And that's true. Matter of fact, I think I actually spent more than what a Fender Player 2 would have cost. I could have bought a Fender Player 2 used, which right now they're going between $466 and $658 for a used model on Reverb. Here's some of the reasons why this would have been a good path. The Player 2 tuners are the same as what I would have upgraded on this guitar. The electronics in the Player 2 are pretty much on par with what I installed in the upgrades on this guitar with Mojo Tone. Also, you have the ability to get a real rosewood fretboard and not a laurel fretboard if you prefer this type of fretboard, of which I do. That's kind of an important thing. The pickups from the factory on the Player 2 are Fender Alnico 5 pickups and not Fender ceramic pickups. To me, Alnico pickups are warmer and have more volume than a ceramic pickup. Although I find the standard guitar to be a very upgradable guitar, for the price difference of at the most $200, I personally would gravitate more towards the Made in Mexico Player 2, or even, to be honest with you, one of the older Player version of the guitar, both made in Mexico. The Player 2 models have basically all the same upgrades that I did to this guitar. If you buy the standard model guitar, you're happy with the ceramic pickups and everything about the guitar, and just leave it as is, and you can pick it up, used as they start to enter the market, and used for maybe like $350 to $400. That's a pretty good deal to have a Fender looking guitar with a Fender logo, with the Fender vibe of being a Telecaster or a Stratocaster, and with, the overall tone of a Fender, of which they do. I mean, the ceramic pickups, there's nothing wrong with ceramic pickups. I just have a preference for Alnico pickups. I think it's a good guitar. I think at the price point that it's right now at new for $599, it does not make sense to upgrade it. You just want to play it as is. If you want a guitar with the upgrades, then you buy the Made in Mexico Player 2, or you wait for 6 months to a year when these are out in the market used and you get them for a good price. And then it does have good bones. You can put whatever you want into it and make it a really good playable guitar. It is very upgradable. You can put most of the traditional vintage style parts into this guitar, and the neck is great. Everything else is okay, and that's pretty much it.